tumble stranded right here. I don't know what they can do. And I'm going to get Miss Ferrum will tell me yesterday.
This is an interview with T.R. Richardson in Ferrum, Virginia in 1992. T.R. was almost 90 years old when he was interviewed and had lived in Franklin County for most of his life. He was a true local character, and my friend Jenny Johnson and I decided one day to interview him. Here are the results of that day, complete with my own overly zealous use of the camera's zoom function.
I know when I was a little boy, my uncle made liquor, had a still in front of the door. I could see it. And they said to me, "Sonny, you ain't got no business here. You keep away from here." So I thought I could do it like they is doing, you know. But he wanted me to stay away. And I think he's doing the right thing.
That's right.
And I know one time I drank some burnt liquor, and that made me sick. And I said I'll never drink no more. That was a good thing for me.
Good lesson.
And you know, burnt liquor will I don't know, will kill you. It's I don't know, it tastes awful.
Huh.
And
They just burned it in the still?
yeah, burnt the still. People used to think they didn't have nothing else to do but make a little liquor. That's the way we was all raised up with it. Franklin County is saturated by liquor makers now.
Still.
And they're trying to get rid of them. But every once in a while somebody gets up and makes a little run of liquor, and they make a little money, you know, and then that encourages somebody else. I've always tried to do the best I could with what I had, so that was we had no woodshed, and it was raining, and the wood was wet, and they couldn't build a fire, so I worked up here to the veneer plant, and I went and I seen Mr. Webb. I said, "Mr. Webb," I said, "would you let me have some of these oak cores and saw up a lumber saw build a woodshed for the church?" He said, "Help yourself, get them all." So I got three truckloads of them, and brought them down here to Mr. Ike Ferguson, and he saw them. And I carried it after I saw Ms. Whitehead, and she let me have a truck, and I hauled them back up to the church, the lumber. And well, I needed some sheeting boards. And I went out there and I saw a man. I said, "Mr. Ross, Will Ross." I said, "Do you know where I could get some sheeting boards to go on top of the woodhouse?" "Yeah, I do. I got a truckload I'll give you." So he brought that truckload up there to the church. And I got up next Sunday and I asked, I said, "How many of you people will help us build this woodhouse next Saturday?" So next Saturday I milked the cows and fed the hogs and the horses and so on, did the work. And by 10 o'clock I went over there, and there's about 8 or 10 men standing around with their hand saws and hammers in their hand.
Waiting to help, huh?
And by 12:30 we had to, well, to top it all off, I didn't have no nails. So I went down to the store and got 10 pound of nails on a credit. And so we built that woodshed. By 12:30 we had the woodshed up. And next thing I had, we needed some stoves then. And I went to Ms. Lou Menifee. That was, you ever know Myrtle Bowles?
No, don't know her.
You ever know Virginia Ferguson?
Yeah, I do.
That was her mother. And I says, "Ms. Menifee, you know where we could get some stoves for the church?" She said, I'm going to Roanoke tomorrow, and I'll get you some stoves. So she went to Roanoke, and next Sunday when I went back, there were 2 new stoves and new pipe. Everything is fixed up. How that did it, I don't know.
Because you organized it.
Huh?
It's because you were an organizer.
I
You know what I want to hear about? I want to hear about when you were a boy up there with your grandma in Endicott.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. I haven't heard enough of that.
I don't know. My mother died at child's birth, and my grandmother had a hard time. Her husband had been killed, and she had a hard time raising money to feed us. That was back in 1903, and we, as I grew up, she worked me all she could in the garden or in the field, and I appreciate it today. And my grandmother, she'd always say, well, now Sonny, let's sow enough wheat that we can make 8 bushels of wheat this year. 8 bushels of wheat would pull us over the winter. We had wheat bread on Sunday morning and cornbread the rest of the week. And I know we took a cradle, but we cut most of the wheat with a reap hook around the stumps and rocks, you know. And as I grow a little bit older, she'd send me up on the hillside with a horse to plow the land. We just had a double shovel. And it's hard to think that we did, but she was a worker. She believed in work. She said she was a plowboy for her daddy during the Civil War. And she had 2 sisters. I remember that they didn't work. They just, you know, kind of sat around. And they came there and they lived that several months. Then they died. And but yet she took them in and fed them. I thought that was mighty good of her.
You must have got a lot from your grandmother.
That's right.
Yeah.
And she loved people.
See?
And she loved her children. And she said when she was married, they had a hogshead for a bed.
A what?
A big hogshead where they made liquor with, you know. Did you ever see a homemade hogshead?
Sure haven't.
Never have.
No.
In other words, it's a big barrel, and I don't know. It must have been about 5 or 6 feet long. And she said they used that for their bed of a straw tick. And just imagine now you're living like that.
Yeah.
That's right after the Civil War. That was about 1867 or 68, when her husband come back from the army.
How long did you live with her?
Huh?
How long did you live with your grandmother?
I lived with her about 17 years. In other words, I felt like she wasn't able to, we had no schools up there then. And when I was 14 and 15 years old, I felt like I'd like to have a little education to read and write my name. So when I came to Ferrum Training School, they put me in the 3rd grade at 17 years old.
Yes.
And now you think of that now. I appreciate Ferrum College. Ferrum College is built on a great loving foundation. It's helped a lot of people. People like me. I had about 60 maybe 50 or 60 cents in my pocket when I come to school. Now you just imagine that now. Dr. Beckham says, what can you do? Will you willing to milk cows? I said, oh yeah, I'll milk cows. So he put me on a job milking cows, feeding the hogs, and he said, we've got to have somebody to look after them. And so I made a pretty good go there.
You sure did. You went on to be the farm manager, didn't you? Yeah, you did. Yeah.
And he said, I can depend on you. You know, that means a whole lot when you took a man like Dr. Beckham. You got somebody would milk the cows and feed the hogs and twice a day. He said, I can depend on you.
You took a trip over with Dr. Beckham over towards Boone's Mill when it was all dirt roads.
That's right.
What were you getting, pigs?
Huh?
I can't remember what you were picking up that day.
Yeah.
Pigs, I think.
And I just think about the wonderful things that the college has done and the wonderful things that the foundation. I talked to a man up there at the commencement day, and I was talking about that student that made that talk. He says, don't let your love leave you. He said, hold to that love. And I told him, he said, that's the thing. I told him, I said, Ferrum College is built on that. I don't know, we made part from a whole lot. It's just like you and raising your children. You tell them a whole lot, but yet somebody else tells them more. Isn't that true?
Oh, yeah.
It's just like it was. We all have had experience, like anybody that's raised children have had experience. But somebody that hasn't had no children, they haven't had no experience. I don't know. My grandmother always says, son, tell the truth. Tell the truth now. And don't curse, you know. I had, a lot of boys get around and curse a lot, you know. Mm-hmm. And I picked that up. She said, I'm not going to have you to say bad words. And she didn't know but one letter in the ABCs, and that is the W.
You were W?
I know. I've often thought about that. How wonderful that is. An uneducated person could live like she done, and she had about 100 and some acres of land, her and her husband, and they raised about, about 7 children. And they raised them on a farm, and everybody looked to them as good people, workers. They work. You know, if you work, you'll do something.
They're looking good.
They'll come later, won't they?
Oh, yeah, they look healthy.
It takes time for them to grow, don't it? I've got some cucumbers planted right here. She didn't know but one letter in the ABCs, and that is the W.